Hi, welcome. This is Dr. John DeMartini. This is one of the most amazing and inspiring shows that you can listen into. If you want to be on the edge of your seats, if you want to open up your heart, if you want to expand your mind, and you want to meet incredible people, stay tuned because you're just about to experience a transformative radio show that will change your life. And you're listening to the Dr. Pat Show that's coming up right next.
Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. Talk radio to thrive by. Powerful, inspiring, and coming to you live, bringing you stories of people like you and me, busting through and living life full out. Get ready to dare to wonder what your life would be like if you knew you could not fail.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. I have to tell you, I'm really excited about this show today. You know, I got to know and understand the depth and the breadth of the work that Danielle Silverman is doing. And let me just tell you about Danielle for a minute. When you're talking about what I have found in my career, the many jobs I've had, the most difficult jobs I've had, and thank goodness I did not have this job for a long time. The most difficult jobs I've had have been in the realm of career coaching, career management, career with anything. As a matter of fact, let me tell you how difficult this was. That even after my postdoctoral work, Sherry Grandrose, who was my advisor, she's like, we have to take your study and study protein careers. I said, oh, I don't want to. She said, okay, then I'll do it. I'll just put your name on it. And she went off and did it. And why is that for me? Here's why. If you are Danielle, and this is your life path, and this is your purpose, you understand the ups, the downs, the topsy-turvy world of anything with the word career in it. And if you are not the best of the best and are not creating so that people can adapt to ever-changing environments, and we are in one now, then this is not a place for you. But this is what Danielle does. This is who she is. She discovered many things in the process. She found her calling. She's going to tell you how she did this. And as a result of this, she's created tools. She's created courses. I'm going to talk about one of the courses today. But there is a job search formula. I'm telling you, there is a formula that many of you wish you knew, but didn't know she had. Danielle, great to have you.
It's wonderful to be here, Dr. Pat.
Yeah, let's not say the word career too many times, so I don't want to have post-traumatic stress disorder. But do you understand what I mean about this? I mean, to be you have to be a special person. You have to be unique. And let me ask you about this, and please comment on it.
Sure.
There's a reason I don't consult on change management anymore, because I can't keep up with what to do well. Are you finding that the realm of career support, job search, do you find that that is equally, if not more dynamic today?
It is dynamic but only because the world is changing. So it has to follow. So for example, 50 years ago, people got a job and they stayed in the company for 30 years, 35 years. And then at the end, they got their gold watch and they retired, right? And did absolutely nothing. But maybe in 15 years ago or so, people would work in a company for 10 years, or even 20 years ago, they'd work in a company for 10 years and then they'd move on to something else. Yeah. Today, people stay 2 to 3 years max. And in the tech industry, it's even less than that. And the reason for that is because company life cycles are shorter. So a tech company may not last if it's a startup. It might not last the long term. It's not a Microsoft or an Apple. And even then, they go through a lot of iterations. So people jump from one job to the other. Or if you look at the younger generation, they move because they want to learn more, or they move because they don't like what they're doing and they want to try it somewhere else. Yeah. So the whole process of job searching is a skill that I think needs to be taught in schools, personally, because you have to keep looking every 2-3 years. You got to search for another job. If you don't have those skills, it's hard.
You know, it's so interesting. We're talking about this as a skill. There are some things that I don't understand why we're not teaching it as a skill. We're not even teaching it at the college level, right? But to imagine if you were in high school, let's say, and you could learn this as a skill, and you could understand the nuances of this, and especially in a world that is now digital, right? You know, there are places where you post your job search. There are just so many things you do. But you really pointed to something interesting. This is really the dilemma for both the individual and the organization.
Yeah.
I work in an industry where we are known for, in this industry, as what we call drive-through employees. Now, I've been very fortunate to have people that want to stay here. And, you know, this is a strange situation. So we are really grooming for our future. And so that's the people we're attracting now, people like Emily producing this show today. But that's part of our value system. There are companies, they're like, I'm not changing my value system. They're going to come in, they're going to go out, and so be it. Is it a double-edged sword for both organizations and individuals?
It is. I think individuals need to, the pandemic did one really great thing, I think, and that it woke people up to realizing that they wanted to do something that had meaning. They were stuck at home, doing things, and they suddenly realized that what they were doing was not fulfilling. And so then now there's I can't even tell you the number of people who are out there looking for jobs that will fulfill them in some way, that will bring some sort of meaning to their life, whether it's, for themselves and their small entourage, or whether it's for the world. It's not given to everybody to do something for the world. But, organizations have the same issue. It's probably harder for organizations because now they want to attract people, and they don't realize that these people are not going to stay for the long term. Yeah. So I think they need to realize that they have to encourage them, they have to help them grow, and they also have to let them go. So there has to be a change in the hiring process, there has to be a change in the onboarding process, there has to be a change in how you motivate people. And not top down, in how you communicate with people. That's also not top down, and it's not keeping everything secret because it's on a need to know basis. It doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, I mean, let's just talk about how you know that and what the name of your organization is, because your name of your organization, Danielle, really speaks to not just, yes, this is who I am in the world, but the name of your organization and what you do speaks to what the future must be about. Tell everybody what the name of your organization is.
So my company, my brand, if you will, is Reinventing-U.
Yeah.
And so I learned that becoming a certified reinvention professional. Because there's an extraordinary lady named Dr. Nadia Jikshembayeva who started the Reinvention Academy. And basically, we're talking about change management. It's about helping organizations manage change. She's a specialist in organizational behavior. And the tools that we use for helping organizations change are also things that we can do to help individuals change. So I prefer to work at the individual level. And because I've been working as a career coach for almost 20 years, for me, it's about helping people look for a job that brings meaning to them, and where what they do matches who they are. So it's about an exploration, a search for who they are deep down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Along with that, though, you've developed, and look, you've taken the depth and the breadth of your experience. And what you've done is you've said, I've looked at this, I've studied this, I've collaborated with people. And yes, part of the equation is job search. And we're going to talk about the fabulous new course you have. But the other part of this is, how do I coach and work with individuals and teams on and I mean this is Reinventing-U. And the reason I like the way you say that, it's just not about you. It's you from a university perspective, meaning an educational perspective on what do I need to know about self in order to be successful the way I want to be successful. I mean, isn't that also foundational piece of just about everything you create?
Absolutely. I think it's absolutely critical for everybody to get to the stage where they know who they are, and that brings a self-confidence, and it brings an ability to be able to go out in the world and speak to people with confidence and with the knowledge of what it is that you really want. It's also about understanding what it is that you can do to help others.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk. We're going to talk about what you created here in a minute, but
Okay.
I was not kidding when I said earlier, right? Those of us that have been inside of organizations and that have done HR, career development, and or right outside career, it used to be called career development. I'm not sure what it's called anymore, but there are those of us that have been there. And then there are those of us like Linda and me, who we've been on the recruiting end of it. Like, so we get to see, oh, this is what we're teaching people to do. And then we get to see what shows up, right? We happen to be in an industry where look, when you worked for Bell Labs, basic research, right? They were looking for the best of the best.
Yeah.
And I watched some candidates who on paper were the best of the best, did not get the job. I watched this, and we both watched it, and we tried to explain, right, to the managers that maybe we had about a 50-50 rate on that. There's so much to know about yourself, but there's even more to know about yourself when you're in the market for the job search. And so let's talk about why this is important, what you named your new course after this very, very short break. Let's take a short break, everybody. Hey, everybody, welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Okay, look, I know I said up front about careers, but I want to tell you, even that I knew then and I know now, and I don't really do this work because it's not in my nature to do it or do it well. But that's not Danielle Silverman. She is superior at it. Not only that, she keeps everything fresh. She will coach individuals and she will coach organizations. I'm going to tell you why both are important in a minute. But before we do, how do people find out about you, your podcast, your courses, your webinar, the whole spiel?
So my website is www.reinventing-U. That's the letter U. And the course you can find out simply, it's one of the tabs at the front that says courses. So you can find out all about it there. Very, very simple. And I'm also doing 3 webinars next week to promote the course because the course starts September 6th, which is very, very soon. And it's for 1 month. I found that most people who are looking for a job are in a hurry. They want to get it done. Yeah. So it will be intensive because there's a lot to learn, but it's live. It's not a recording. So people will have ample opportunity to ask me questions. As a matter of fact, what we're going to do is we're going to have 2 sessions a week. One will be a study session, if you will, to learn about the concept. And it'll be very interactive. I've learned a new online tool that I love. I mean, I find it very difficult to sit through even an hour of a webinar or something on online, I know. But I've sat through 3-hour meetings and 1 full day meetings using this particular tool, and I have no problem doing it. Yeah. It's painless. So I'm going to try using that tool and, keep fingers crossed. It should.
You're going to do it. You got this. You got this now. I love what you just said. Here's why. Everybody complains, right? You and I have had a lot of conversations, so you'll appreciate this. A lot of people complain when a movie comes out, it's like 3 hours. And then a movie comes out and it's Titanic, and you're like, it couldn't be done for less than that amount of time, right? So it's less about the time and it's more about the engagement.
That's right.
That's what I love. Now I have 2 people already I'm sending this to.
Oh, wow.
So I hope you're going to take people from New Jersey. Just saying.
Absolutely. All over North America, England, Australia, wherever
Right.
you want. It's open to everybody.
And thank you, making the price point on these amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, here's what I want to start off with, and I want you to chime in because they're directly related to the course.
Okay.
Don't get bored by what I'm going to read, please. I know it's a little academic. It's a little okay. So Dr. Brandos, Cherry, and I agreed to do this report. Do psychological contracts include boundaryless or protein careers?
Yes.
It was in the Career Development International. I'm having a trauma just thinking about it. But we didn't have to do a lot of work because this was my dissertation work.
Right.
So Cherry wanted to do it. She studied research and career, especially in China.
Oh, wow.
But here's what we found. And I'm not going to go into the whole spiel, but here's what we found. The idea was to examine these careers, these psychological contract of careers. Now, if you don't know what these are, they're promises. If you go work for a company, let me give you the big one, everybody. Danielle has done so many shows on this. But if you work for a company back in the day, they said to you, if you work hard for us in 25 years, you're going to retire, you're going to have pension, you're going to have both. That's a psychological contract. When you violate it, oh my goodness, fasten your seatbelt. But here's where we go. We did this aerospace employees. I'm not saying where they live in the Seattle area. Here's what she found. She said most employees consider their career goals like job security or upward mobility important, but believe the organization failed to meet them. We all agree, right? Okay. Then she goes on to say organizational commitment, everything gets wacky. Employees commit to managers, and they do that in a way that helps soften the blow. But here's the deal. But even those managers had no effect on intentions to leave. That means you're leaving. Hello. If the manager violated the psychological career contracts of the organization and had a high level of pursuit, and the organization had a high level of pursuit psychological contract. So what I'm trying to say about this is you get at the heart of understanding break it down. What the heck are you getting into with this job? Do you know the company you're applying for? Do you have any information? Have you done your homework? How did they treat employees? So that you don't end up in the mess that I just described. Are you going to help people with that?
Of course, I'm going to help people with that. You have to do research you have to do your research in order to be able to understand if that company and you are a match. I mean, you wouldn't just marry the first person. Okay, in a different culture, you might just marry, somebody your parents tell you this is the person you're going to marry. But in the North American culture and in most advanced economies, we don't do that. So you're not going to go and do the same thing for a job. You spend most of your time in that job. A third of your awake out, not even half of your waking hours are spent doing a job. Why spend it being miserable? You want to be sure that the organization you're working for is going to is going to talk to you the way you want to be talked to. Sorry, I'm so passionate about this.
But we get so excited about it. I'm excited about it. And I started the show up saying, but I get excited about this part.
The only thing is that organizations change as well. Leadership changes. And so philosophies change also. If the leader that is there, that's why I don't do change management anymore. Because it has to come from the top. And when the top changes and somebody else comes in and that person doesn't have the same values, then it all just falls apart. The work that you've done just is for naught. So there is that as well.
Yeah.
No?
Let's talk about this because I was so excited when I looked at, and I'm sorry, I'm going to go over some things that we don't generally have time to, but when I looked at your course, right, and let's just say the not so ordinary job search formula for managers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Revolutionizing job searches for leaders like you. Let's just be very clear for you. If you don't think you're a manager or a leader, you are.
Yes.
I just want to be really clear for everybody. Yes. And I want to also be clear that if you're not in that position now, but that is on your career path to be, you need this.
Absolutely.
See, people think, I'm not a manager yet. Oh my gosh, if I'd have taken this before I became a manager, I would have been able to avoid a lot of mistakes. But what you created here, what I find interesting about this is, one, let's go over a little bit about this.
Okay.
First, it's a holistic approach. Can you talk to that?
Okay, by holistic, I mean, we don't just talk about the job search process, which is most people view as you have to write a resume, you have to go on an interview, you have to network. People are really afraid of that. You have to write a cover letter, you have to have a LinkedIn profile, all of that stuff. Those are the technical things that you need to do. But in addition to that, you have to understand who you are. And I don't start with the resume. In fact, it's almost the last thing you do. It's the second thing I do in my course because it's easier to do it in that order. But when somebody comes to me on an individual basis, I say, let's put the resume aside for a second. What I'm doing here that I think is revolutionary is starting with the interviews, because in there, you're telling stories. Most interviews today are behavioral interviews where they ask you situational questions. Tell me about a time when you did fill in the blank. How would you give it in this a certain type of situation? How would you handle that situation? So you have to be able to relate to things that you've done in your past that that will work to answer that question. So you have to know what your accomplishments have been. And you have to write those stories, and you have to learn those stories, and then you have to practice those stories. Yeah. But the beauty of that is threefold. Number one, if you practice properly, you're going to ace the interview. I guarantee that. Number two, because you've written about your accomplishments, and that's what your resume is all about, well, guess what? You've already written your resume. All you have to do is summarize that particular accomplishment, put it into one sentence that starts with a verb in the past tense and tells people what you did and what the result was, the positive result. The third thing is you can use those stories and expand on them to figure out who you are and what you really want. And that's the goal. Bottom line is to get people to understand. And if they want to work with me individually afterwards and go into it much, much more depth, I'm happy to do that. It's really about finding out what the golden thread is in your life.
Yeah.
And deciding what it is. I mean, that's how I did it.
I love it.
Worked with somebody and discovered who I am and what it is that I was meant to do. And it's still true today.
Totally. And I love this because I love that I went a route. And, you know, for me, I'm one of these people, worked for the corporation 24 and a half years, didn't like their value system on the downsizing. I was in HR. You can't be in HR and tell your president you don't like what they're doing. That doesn't work out. So I ended up not thinking, if I'd have been working with you, you'd have been saying, girlfriend, hold on for 6 months. You're going to get a full pension here. You know, like, hold on. You're not even like 43 years old. Hold on for 6 months. You got it. January, you get like a full. I didn't have you. So knee-jerk reaction, don't like it, take the severance, and off I go. Now, the good news is I was never really meant to stay there for too much longer, or else I wouldn't be talking to you. But if you don't have somebody to at least talk to and at least have a story to talk about, at least if you don't know the story of your past, can't people create the story of their future?
I think you absolutely need to know the story of your past to create your future. I'm sorry, but you can't create a future without a vision. And the vision comes from, you know, I recently discovered that the things that I was doing when I was 8 years old are still in me today, and they inform what I am and who I am today.
Let's talk about that when we come back from break, because that right there, I was talking with Linda about this the other day. And actually, I was talking with one of our new hosts, right? But we weren't talking about hosting. We were talking about what horror movies I watched at 8 years old and how they shaped my ability to be creative and go beyond the box, right? 8 years old. When we come back, I want to ask you this question, you all. When we come back, I want to talk about two things. And if you do not talk about these two things together, like Danielle Silverman is doing in this course, don't take the course. If you don't see empowerment and eliminate fears and reduce stress in some bullet point in any course, but especially about resumes and career, don't take the course. Why? You ever try to go on a job interview stressed and filled with fear and anxiety? When we come back, there's a reason Danielle Silverman put these in here. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody, welcome back. I want to get right to it. I want to make sure you know where to go to find out for the course. And believe me, Danielle has done this in plenty of time for you to register it. So you can do a number of different things to get involved in this. And that is so we can not only look at what the course is about, but there are things that you're going to learn about yourself that go beyond your career. See, we always like to talk about things like this that have to do with career or job search. That's not what this is about. You're going to learn about yourself, and you're going to learn about, I said it, that word empowerment beyond your imagination. Do you know why? Because along with that, Danielle is going to work with you how to move beyond, reduce stress, move beyond fear and anxiety. And I'm telling you, it's so difficult to even think about becoming empowered if you're carrying that. Danielle, before we go on, again, how do we register? What's the date of the course? Tell us.
So the registration is on my website. It's www.reinventing-U, the letter U, /courses. And the explanation of everything that's included in the courses, the pricing, everything is on that page. Additionally, I'm also doing 3 webinars next week that people can attend. The webinar is simply how to make your job search fun and land the job you want, because I truly believe that if we don't make it fun, then it's even more difficult. It's already difficult. You said it yourself. And so I'm going to try and bring a little bit of levity into it and bring some ways of working that will make it less tedious for people. There are 3 webinars next week. And what I'm doing in those 3 webinars is looking at 3 things. One is the number one reason you don't hear back when you send your resume online. So it seems like you're going into a black hole. The other thing is I'm going to actively talk about the 4 core phases of a job search. And then why you see the job search as being boring or tedious or difficult, and what you can do about it. So those are the 3 things I'm going to cover in those webinars. And that you can find, it's join.reinventing-U, let me look at it, /job searching webinar. I can put it in the chat if you want to.
And Emily's going to put it throughout this particular video version of this. Emily is just got it going on here. She's going to show some screenshots of the page and everything.
Okay.
And
I'll put the link for the courses as well.
Beautiful.
That way you'll have that as well.
Okay. So fun. I want to talk about fun, but I want to hold off for a minute because the webinars are going to be essential. But what did you think about my statement? I mean, the reason that I've done so many corporate HR things where people have almost laughed me off the stage when I had to say the word empowerment, there's a reason. And the reason is that we try to tell people empowerment, but we don't even touch any level of fear, any level of stress. Now, why am I bringing it up? People think that managers don't experience the same level of insecurity, job insecurity, project insecurity, future insecurity as the rest of the world, but they do. Why was this important to you include both E's in here, empowerment and eliminate fear and reduce stress?
Because a lot of people do fear the job search. They in particular fear networking. And I'll tell you, networking is the best way to find a job and to land a job. So I want to dispel that fear. As a matter of fact, the module is called "Networking is not a dirty word."
I love it. I love it.
It's really about dispelling that fear and showing people that networking is simply about being curious about other people. People love to talk about themselves.
Yeah.
Do not ask for a job, because if you're asking for a job and people don't have one to give you, they're going to be embarrassed and they're just going to walk away. They want to be able to help you.
Yeah.
So forget about asking for a job. It's not about that. It's about making a genuine communication with people, getting curious about who they are and what it is that they need and how you can help them. And can you imagine if what they need is exactly what you're good at? Well, there you go.
Yeah.
You haven't even asked for a job, but you have a potential of doing something for that person, whether even if it's just contract work or just an internship for a while so that you get to know each other. It doesn't matter. But you're meeting people. And if by any chance at one point you meet somebody and it doesn't quite click, the atoms don't match, well, you just go on and meet somebody else. It's not personal. So I really want to try and get people to understand that. Yeah. Once you have that self-confidence, and I think that's the biggest issue for people, is that self-confidence, because they may have just been laid off from their job. Oh my God, I'm not worth anything. I just got fired. Well, hey, it's not about you. It's about the organization's needs. I say on my website, I think it's on my website, that in the About Me section, that when I started working in career transition, I noticed that people, when they had lost their jobs, were actually not happy in that particular job just before they got fired. And that's been the same thing for me. I was completely unhappy in the job. You figured it out. You left your job, right? But most people just stay.
Yeah.
They quiet quit.
They quiet quit. I went into a revolting quit. That was same thing as quiet quitting, but not so quiet. But the reason I wanted to talk with you about this is because I want to be very clear to everybody out there. Sometimes in the world we live in today, especially in job and career, this can be scary. It can be filled with anxiety. But I want to bring up one thing that I know Danielle is going to take care of. You could be filled with doubt in so many, many ways. Now, let's just talk about one thing for the people that are like me. Believe it or not, I am a very serious introvert. If you take a look at any Myers-Briggs that I take, and it almost cost me my management job when they came in and I took the test. And I took the test and I scored so high on the introvert scale, they gave it to me again. And then they gave it to me again. I took it 4 times because my management wanted to pull me out of a position. Here's the message. And Danielle, I know you're going to help people with this. It doesn't matter if you're an introvert or an extrovert. It doesn't mean you're not going to be effective. It doesn't mean you're not going to say hello to people. It just means at the end of the day, I'm going to watch a live streaming series and Linda or my friend Barb is going to go dancing. That's all it means. But this is part of what you have to navigate in understanding yourself, right?
Absolutely. I still consider myself an introvert, even though when I take the Myers-Briggs, it now scores extrovert, but I still consider myself an introvert. I think it's just because I've done so much work on myself.
Yeah.
That eventually but I'm somewhere in the middle. So I still consider myself an introvert. It just means that I process things
exactly
in a different way.
Exactly.
And it takes me a little bit longer than some people, to just come out and recognize things. And that's something that you have to learn about yourself as well. How do you react to things? How much time do you need to prepare for something? Absolutely. Everybody is different and everybody is unique. And so that's why I'm doing this course now live. And that's why I want people to have practice in addition to just the course itself and the Q&A section, the question and answer, which is the second session in the week. We're going to have practice sessions. So you're going to be able to practice meeting people, learning about them, and so on and so on. You're going to be able to practice, if you're in the VIP program, you're going to be able to practice interviews with people. And it's just, we have to do this.
We do.
It's that self-confidence, regardless of whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. extroverts have just as much trouble with self-confidence as introverts do. Believe me.
Yeah.
So it's the self-confidence that's going to bring you to that empowerment that you talk about.
And we process things differently. And I want to talk about this because I know one of the things you do, these are live lessons. Mm-hmm. So, and a lot of times people are so used to not doing live anything, right? They're used to sign up, get it, blah, blah, blah. But what I love about what you're doing is it's live people, real conversation, real solutions, and you walk away with a new toolkit. The other thing too is if folks want ongoing coaching, you've also given them other options here. You know, you've added into one of the options they can sign up for, review the resume, coaching call, Facebook groups. So you've done some other things to say you can have this if you really want the basics, or you can come over here. And then even if people want more, they can still work with you one-on-one, right?
Yes, they can. As a matter of fact, I've added two other things. One is if they want to continue to work with me after the course, there's a membership that they can belong to. It's a small monthly amount, but there's no obligation. They can work with me one-on-one until they feel that they have everything that they need, or until they've landed the job, whatever it is. There's no obligation. They can be with me 1 month, 6 months, doesn't matter. It's the same flat monthly fee. Yeah. And it's not even a portion of what I charge in my hourly fees for most people. And the other part is to be in a community of practice with others. So in particular for interviews, because that's a really hard thing you have to practice. If you don't practice, you really, really, really need to practice a lot, whether it's in front of a mirror, in front of your dog, in front of your kids, whatever it is. You need to practice. So here is an opportunity also for a very, very small monthly amount to work with other people who are in the same boat as you are. The one thing I learned, and I learned it from a client, believe it or not, when I talked to him after he had found his dream job, and he had been there for 3 years, and then he moved on to something else. And I spoke with him after he had found that other job. And he said to me, Danielle, the best thing that happened to me here, other than the things that I learned with you, was that I had a very, very good friend who happened to be going through the same thing I was at the same time that I was. And we held each other up. We were able to, support one another. When one was down, the other one wasn't, and so on and so forth. So the reason I'm doing this as a course is so that people will not feel alone, so that they will get that encouragement from others and that support from others, not just from me. I really want... My mission in the world is to make sure that if you're not getting this kind of skill in school, you got to be getting it somewhere. And it's not after you've lost your job.
No, it's not. And what I loved about this is we all know vicarious learning is the thing. I mean, when we do our training of people, we have them go through role plays. We have them. I mean, you should have been sitting in the room with Sierra and Emily. We have them go through things and do things together, not because we put them on the spot, but because they learn from each other and they continue to learn. When we come back, we're going to tackle something that maybe you all may or may not be aware of. But when we come back, what do you think most people that are in the job search that get to a resume or get to an interview or even get to networking, what do you think it's the one thing they don't think to do that they could learn? We're going to take a short break, everybody. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody, welcome back. Thank you for joining us here today. Super important conversation with one of the leading experts on this topic, whether it's anything with the word career in it, let's just drop that in. Or if you're thinking about job search, let's just drop that in. Or if you're thinking about discovery of yourself, let's just drop this in. But more importantly, if you're thinking about reinventing you, make sure you drop this in. Give everybody information about the course, your coaching. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
So you can reach me on my website. It's www.reinventingu.com. www.reinventing-u.com. That's important, otherwise you'll never find me. And there is a space part in there about connecting with me. So I get an email directly. So that's fairly easy. What I'm doing, I've been a career coach for almost 20 years. And every person I speak with, when it comes down to looking for a job, because I do more than looking for a job, I also help people figure out what it is they want to do, who they want to be when they grow up, as we used to say, because I struggled with that for 30 years. And if we have time, I'll tell you the story. It's a pretty neat story. Otherwise, you can read a little bit about it on my website also. But I recognize that people just don't know the first thing about what to do for a job search. They just find it really hard. And when I tell them these little tips, and they're tips that are true today, now that we have something called an applicant tracking system, which is an artificial intelligence that reads your resume when you send it online. And the reason you don't hear back, because most people don't know that they have to put keywords in their resume. And what are those keywords? Where do they come from? Most people don't know these things, and it just astounds me that they don't. So I really want to make it clear, everybody needs to know this, and I want to make it accessible to everybody.
Well, thank you for that. Now we're going to talk about two things because they're related. One of the things that everybody practices for is how to answer questions.
Yes. But
rarely do people work with them on how to ask questions. And this is directly related to your story, because the questions sometimes you think start on the outside, but questions often start on the inside. And that was the same with you in your explanation or your exploration of what you wanted your purpose to be, right?
Yes. And what I wanted my purpose to be, but it's also an experience that I had when interviewing for a job. And I think that's what really, one of the things that propelled me many years later to become a career coach is that understanding. I was applying for a job internally. I used to work for an airline, and there was an internal job in sales. And I was tired of working in reservations, taking calls from people who wanted to go to wherever, Timbuktu. And I was scheduled for a half-hour interview with the VP of sales of this particular division. And I sat there and I answered his questions. And what he was telling me about what he was doing with this new division was fascinating. And he seemed, very interesting. And I was a very deep introvert in those days, but I couldn't help it. I was curious about something. So I asked him, I said, can you tell me how you got to your position? And so he told me his story. And when I did get the job, he called me in afterwards and he said, do you know why you got this job? Because you asked me that particular question. Because in sales, just like anything else, you have to be curious about people. You have to be curious about a lot of things. So when you're being interviewed, ask questions. Ask questions about, first of all, do your homework.
Yeah. Oh, please.
Actually, I have somebody I met recently, brilliant woman who has a TED Talk, TEDx talk. Her name is Samantha Chris, K-R-I-S, if you want to look her up on LinkedIn. She just wrote a post this morning on LinkedIn about, she does this every Friday. She introduces you to somebody in her network who is fantastic. And then in this particular post today, she outlined 3 things that you need to do in your networking. Do your homework first. Find out everything you can about the person and about the organization if you're going for an interview. Find out what it is this person has to offer, and tap into their network. And also, what can you do for that person? Because networking is about, and interviewing and just understanding is how you can help others.
Yeah,
I call it interest, and it's just showing interest in people and understanding, just being human.
Yeah,
it's not. As a matter of fact, the first module is called the dance of the interview. Because
the dance?
The dance of the interview. It's about a conversation. It's about moving together in that conversation and enjoying yourself, because you're meeting somebody for the first time and you don't know anything about them and they don't know anything about you. So yes, it's about selling. I don't like the word selling. It's about introducing yourself and showing people what it is that you're capable of. But it's also about opening up a little bit and letting them know a little about you and learning about them as well.
I love that you did that. And I love that you called it that. I love that you called it that. Let me just follow up with this because this is fun. I love that it's called the dance because the potholes that I've stepped into in interviews were not finding out that the dance partner that I was speaking with, not finding out what type of dance they did. And the reason I say that is, if you show up as somebody that does the waltz and the person that's interviewed is a Latin ballroom dancer and you don't pick up on that right away, you're not going to connect. And I'm using it as a metaphor, but we're really talking about walking into a situation and scanning the landscape, right? Mm-hmm. And I love that you're doing the dance. It's so fun. I hope you play music.
Oh, I was just thinking about that this morning. What kind of music?
You got to do it. You need, and I'm telling you, if you go through the different types of music, everybody's going to have a style. Everybody's going to be different, right? But you also said something else I want to ask you about. When you coach people how to overcome fear and how to become empowered and anxiety, there is an art and a dance to asking the person that's interviewing you questions. But is that like a scary thing that people are really afraid to do?
Well, they are sometimes. And that's why I provide some basic questions that you can ask. But the basic questions are, they're technical, like I can't even think of one off the top of my head. But the last question you should ask, by the way, especially if it's your first interview, but in any interview, is how much is the salary?
Oh,
never, ever, ever, ever ask that question, please.
No.
But yeah. So I do provide some questions that you can ask, but I also encourage people to think about, okay, what are the things, what are you picking up on? What are you hearing? Ask the person how they got to what they're doing. If it's the hiring manager, ask the person in human resource, what can you tell me about the company? And pick up on some clues. If you walk into an organization that's in a basement with no windows and you walk by desks and people are quiet and they don't say hello, that's a clue as to what the culture is like in that organization, right? So pick up on those things.
Yeah. Look around the room. I think Emily will tell you, I'm in New Jersey now, but if you ever went into my office, I don't know if Emily's ever walked down there, but if you ever walked into my office, you'll get a sense of me. You'll look on the walls. You'll see what's on the walls. You'll see those things. You walk into Jessica's office, you'll see something different. When Linda was there, you walk into Linda's office. Triple Virgo she is. Not a lot on the wall, but a very few things that are there tell you about her. But it's all part of what you're going to help people with. And that's my point.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is. Yeah, that's why I call it holistic.
Yeah.
It encompasses.
I could go on for hours. I hope you will come back because I really want to talk more about this. This is so critically important. I have seen more of the youngsters that I know cry. I wish I would have ... And boy, if you can help people with this, it will build confidence, not just for a job or an interview, but for their entire career.
Absolutely.
What's your personal message? What would you love to leave us with? And thank you for doing something so valuable. I can't even put a price on what you do right now in the environment.
That's very, very kind. My final message is don't be afraid to be who you are. It took me a very, very long time to figure that out. And it's so important that you understand who you are and not settle. There was a famous commencement address that Steve Jobs did to Stanford in 2005. And one of his points was, don't settle. And he was very lucky to do something he loved. And, people tell you, do what you love and the money will follow. Sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. But the point is, if you really do love what you do, you don't feel the time pass. You don't. And eventually, if you've got the right setup, you will make money. There's no question.
It's like that 3-hour movie you thought you were never going to get through, and when it's over, you want more. Thank you for helping so many people. I can't wait to speak with you again. I hope this is not the only one you're going to be doing. I'm glad you made it available for anybody that can be online.
Yes.
And Danielle, I just so appreciate what you're doing, because it is a skill set that many of us do not have, and nor will we ever be really great at. So thank you for picking up the slack for us.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pat. I'm thrilled to have been here to talk about this. I'm telling you, I doing it one-on-one, I used to think, oh, it's so tedious. It was tedious for me. But when I started creating this course and started thinking about what it means to me and what the value is to me, and that is bringing value to others, it suddenly became alive, and I fell in love with it. So that's what I want you to do, not necessarily fall in love with the job search itself. I'm not asking you to be a career coach, but fall in love with who you are and what you want to be doing. And that, to me, is my gift to the world, I think. Yeah. So
what a great way.
Thank you.
What a great way to end the show. I have nothing to add to that, because you have said it all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Danielle Silverman, reinventing-U.com. Course is right there. You will see it. Don't waste time. Get yourself scheduled. But even more importantly, I know you know somebody that could benefit from this. I know you do, because I know like 2 or 3 of them. Please pay it forward so that all of you all can live in the bliss that both Danielle and I live in today. Thank you for tuning us in and turning us on.